John Goodman is turning heads with his latest transformation. Candid Snap shows the two posing in a grocery store with David writing in the caption,
For decades, this man made millions of families stop everything to watch him on television every single week. But this week, at 74, when he walked through a grocery store, nobody recognized him. Then a photo hit the internet, and millions refused to believe it was really him. The man in that picture was nearly 200 pounds lighter than the beloved star they remembered. But behind that shocking transformation is one terrifying morning when his hands suddenly would not stop shaking. The ghost in the cereal aisle. If you grew up watching television in the late 80s and 90s, you knew John Goodman's face before you even knew his name. He was Dan Connor. He was the big, warm, lovable father who held that family together on Roseanne, while the world around them kept falling apart. He was one of those rare actors who felt like family, like someone you already knew, like someone who could have lived on your street. So when actor David DeLuise posted a photo to Instagram on Thursday, August 6, 2026, standing next to a man he had just bumped into in a grocery store, the internet did a collective double-take. DeLuise, who played Jerry Russo on Disney Channel's Wizards of Waverly Place, looked thrilled. He captioned the photo, "He was my childhood legend. I love that I get to say that to someone. If you know, you know." The man standing beside him was John Goodman, but he did not look like John Goodman. Not the version anyone remembered. He looked slimmer, lighter, and genuinely at ease in a way that startled people who had followed his career for decades. The comments section erupted within hours. One fan wrote, "Is that really John Goodman? He is unrecognizable." Another said, "He was one of my favorite TV dads of the 80s and 90s. He looks amazing." Someone else commented, "It's hard getting older because the stars I love are getting older too. But he is amazing and looks amazing." And that reaction tells you something important about the relationship audiences have with this man. People did not just watch John Goodman on television, they felt connected to him. They rooted for him. So when they see him now, nearly 200 pounds lighter at 74 years old, the shock is personal. It feels like finding out someone you care about went through something massive and came out the other side. But the grocery store photo only shows you the ending. It does not show you the 30 years of alcohol abuse, the crippling depression, the 400-pound body that Goodman once described as looking like a walking heart attack, or the morning he woke up shaking so violently that he knew he would die if he did not pick up the phone. And it is that story, the one behind the weight loss, that is far more extraordinary than any before and after photo could ever capture. The boy who lost his father before he could remember him. Most people who watched John Goodman on Roseanne assumed they understood him. Big guy, funny, warm, probably had a happy childhood somewhere in the Midwest. And they were half right about the Midwest part. John Stephen Goodman was born on June 20th, 1952, in Afton, Missouri, a small working-class suburb outside St. Louis. His father, Leslie Francis Goodman, was a postal worker. His mother, Virginia Roos, was a waitress at a local barbecue restaurant called Jack and Phil's. She also worked retail jobs and took in laundry on the side just to keep the bills paid. Before John turned 2 years old, his father suffered a fatal heart attack. Leslie Goodman was only 37. That detail matters more than most people realize, because it would later haunt John in ways that shaped every major decision of his adult life. His older brother, Leslie, was 14 years older and left for college not long after. His younger sister, Elizabeth, was born 6 months after their father died. Virginia Goodman was left alone to raise 3 children with almost nothing. John described his childhood in interviews as alone and withdrawn. He was bullied at school for being overweight. He did not have a father figure to turn to, so he found substitutes. In the Boy Scouts, he attached himself to troop leaders who gave him the structure and encouragement he was missing at home. Later, he would do the same thing with acting coaches. That pattern of searching for fatherly guidance from older men followed him through his entire life. At Afton High School, Goodman played football and started getting involved in theater. After graduating in 1970, he took a gap year then earned a football scholarship to Southwest Missouri State University. A torn ACL ended his athletic career almost immediately, but the injury pushed him into the drama department. He studied alongside future stars Kathleen Turner and Tess Harper, graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in 1975, and moved to New York City with almost no money and no connections. For years, he struggled. He bounced between odd jobs and small theater parts, never quite breaking through, always carrying that emptiness from a childhood spent without a father and a body that the world reminded him was too big. The weight became part of his identity, whether he wanted it to or not, and the grief he never processed as a child quietly found its way into the one habit that would nearly destroy him. His brother Leslie eventually came back home to help raise him, and he introduced John to comedy, bebop music, and comic books. Those small gifts of connection kept him afloat during years that could have swallowed him whole. But they were not enough to fill the space where a father should have been, and food became the thing that did. Food was comfort. Food was control. Food was the one thing that never walked out the door or died without warning. By the time he arrived in New York, Goodman was already carrying more weight than his body could sustain, both physically and emotionally. The loneliness and the unspoken pain all converged into one destructive coping mechanism that took root long before the cameras ever found him. Dan Connor saved his career, but nearly killed the man behind him. In 1988, John Goodman was cast as Dan Connor on ABC's Roseanne, and his entire world changed overnight. The show was a cultural phenomenon. Tens of millions of Americans tuned in every week to watch the Connor family navigate the messy, unglamorous reality of working-class life. Goodman's portrayal of Dan was a revelation. He was funny and tender and tough all at once. Between 1989 and 1995, he received 7 Emmy nominations. In 1993, he won a Golden Globe for Best Actor. But the fame that made him a household name also unlocked something dangerous inside him. The tabloid attention, the loss of privacy, the constant scrutiny over his size and his appearance pushed Goodman deeper into alcohol. And this was not casual drinking. This was a man who was spiraling and hoping nobody would notice. In a 2018 interview with Willie Geist on Today, Goodman was brutally honest about what was happening behind the scenes during the original run of Roseanne. "I got so lucky because I was still getting hired for things, but the fact is I was drinking at work," he said. "My speech would be slurred. I thought I was fooling people. My cheeks would turn bright red when I was liquored up. I just looked like a stop sign." You need to let that sink in for a moment. One of the most beloved sitcom actors in America was showing up to set drunk, slurring his words, and still getting away with it because he was so talented that people looked the other way. That is not a success story. That is a man in free fall who happened to land on a mattress instead of concrete. Every spring, when Roseanne wrapped for the season, Goodman would lose 60 or 70 pounds. Then he would reward himself with a six-pack and slide right back into the same habits.
Calling the 74-year-old unrecognizable. John's latest appearance comes a year after he showed off his 200-pound weight loss premiere in Los Angeles.
He told David Letterman that he was pushing 400 pounds at his heaviest. In a 2012 interview with The Guardian, he admitted that drinking was certainly affecting his work. When the interviewer asked in what way, his answer was 3 words: temperament, memory, depression. He told Men's Health something even more chilling. "For some reason, I just denied what I was doing to myself. It's a miracle anyone would hire me at all. Looking at me, I looked like a walking heart attack." And for anyone over 50, reading between the lines of that quote, you know exactly what he was saying. His father died of a heart attack at 37. Goodman was now well past that age, pushing 400 pounds, drinking himself into oblivion, and watching his own reflection become the thing he feared most. The face in the mirror was not just unhealthy, it was a countdown. The cycle of losing weight and gaining it back continued for years. Every attempt ended the same way. He would make progress, feel good, and then reward himself right back into the hole he had just crawled out of. And the drinking only accelerated the pattern. because alcohol was the fuel that powered every relapse, every binge, every moment of self-destruction he could not seem to escape. He also spoke to The Guardian in 2015 about how close he came to not surviving. "I mean, there's many times I could have gone under. Not overdosed, but, well, misadventure." He described his alcoholism in another interview with raw simplicity. "Alcohol is alcohol. I'm an alcoholic. I would drink no matter what. That's just part of being an alcoholic. You find any excuse." And for anyone who has watched a parent, a sibling, a spouse, or a friend disappear into that cycle, you know exactly what those words cost him to say out loud. Admitting that you are powerless over the thing that is killing you is the hardest sentence any human being can speak. By 2007, the cycle had reached a breaking point that nobody outside his closest circle knew about until he decided to speak publicly about it over a decade later. The morning everything almost ended. In 2007, John Goodman went on a weekend trip with friends. The plan was supposed to be golf. The reality was a bender that lasted days. He had a commitment to attend an Emmy ceremony, but he missed the rehearsal entirely because he was too drunk to function. By Sunday morning, he was shaking. He was still drinking, but the tremors would not stop. His body was telling him something his mind had been refusing to accept for 30 years. "I had the clarity of thought that I needed to be hospitalized," he later told Willie Geist. He picked up the phone and called his wife, Anna Beth. He described that call as like turning myself into the Gestapo. Anna Beth did not hesitate. She made the calls and got him into a treatment center. He detoxed there, and for the first time in decades, he felt what sobriety actually tasted like. Anna Beth Hartzog had met John at a Halloween party in 1987 at Tipitina's, a famous music venue in New Orleans. She was a 19-year-old fine arts student at the University of New Orleans. He was 35 and already becoming famous, but deeply insecure about himself. "I thought, what could this lovely young woman possibly want with me?" he later told Entertainment Weekly. They married in November 1989 at St. Charles Avenue Presbyterian Church in New Orleans in front of 650 guests.
In his personal life, John Goodman married Annabeth in 1989. They live in New Orleans and have a daughter named Molly, who is attending film school. In 2009, John publicly admitted that he had an alcohol problem in the past.
Roseanne Barr, Bruce Willis, and Demi Moore were all in attendance. After the ceremony, the entire wedding party boarded the Creole Queen riverboat for a 3-hour cruise along the Mississippi. Their daughter, Molly Evangeline, was born on August 31, 1990. Goodman was filming Barton Fink at the time, and Anna Beth was 9 months pregnant on set. Shortly after Molly was born, the couple made a decision that shocked Hollywood. They packed up and moved to New Orleans, far from the tabloid culture and the relentless spotlight that had been chipping away at John's mental health for years. Anna Beth later opened a children's boutique called Pippin Lane in the city and built a life completely separate from the entertainment industry. John has credited Anna Beth as the person who saved his life. She was the one who got him into treatment when he finally admitted he could not stop on his own. Roseanne Barr also played a role in confronting him about his drinking during the original run of the show. In a 2018 interview with Howard Stern, Goodman acknowledged that Barr had directly called him out about his problem. "She was scared for me, but she was more confrontational," he said. "She'd already had a husband go through the process." In the 2012 Guardian interview, Goodman described his addiction with the kind of bluntness that only comes from someone who has stared at the worst version of themselves and survived. "It was getting to be too much," he said. "It was 30 years of a disease that was taking its toll on everyone around me, and it had got to the point where, every time I did it, it was becoming more and more debilitating. It was life or death. It was time to stop." And even after getting sober, the battle did not end. He admitted that he still dreams about drinking. "I'll go, hey, I shouldn't be doing that. And then I'll go, wow, that's okay. You do it all the time. You sneak it all the time. And then I'll wake up and go, no, I don't." He told Men's Journal, "I want to keep going to places where there is positive reinforcement, so I don't get to the place where there are triggers, because I don't think anything on God's green earth could stop me if I really wanted to drink." That level of honesty from a man his age in an industry that punishes vulnerability is not something you hear every day. And it was that honesty that finally opened the door to the physical transformation the entire world is now talking about. Sobriety cleared the fog, but the body he had been destroying for decades still needed saving, and the method he used was not what anyone expected. The trainer who changed everything. After getting sober in 2007, Goodman made a decision that would reshape his entire physical existence. He enlisted Mackie Shilstone, a celebrated health coach based in New Orleans, who had previously worked with elite athletes including Serena Williams and Peyton Manning. Shilstone understood something that most celebrity trainers miss entirely. Sustainable transformation is not about dramatic, short-term results. It is about building a system that a person can live with for the rest of their life. Shilstone started Goodman on the fundamentals: portion control, cutting sugar, exercising 6 days a week using a combination of an elliptical bike, treadmill, and resistance training. By 2010, Goodman had lost more than 100 pounds. He told People magazine at the time, "I'm breaking a sweat, but I'm not going nuts." In a 2016 interview with ABC News, Goodman explained the psychological shift that had to happen before the physical one could stick. "I just stopped eating all the time," he said. "I'd have a handful of food, and it'd go to my mouth. I was just eating alcoholically. In the old days, I would take 3 months out, lose 60 or 70 pounds, and then reward myself with a 6-pack of Bud or whatever, and just go back to my old habits. This time I wanted to do it slowly. Move. Exercise. I'm getting to the age where I can't afford to sit still anymore." That last line lands differently when you remember that his father died of a heart attack at 37. At 64, when he said those words, Goodman had already outlived his father by nearly 3 decades. But the shadow of that heart attack was never far from his mind. In 2015, Shilstone introduced Goodman to a Mediterranean-style eating plan built around olive oil, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, fish, and moderate amounts of cheese and yogurt, with very little red meat. Shilstone described the diet as highly driven by olive oil and explained that the healthy fats kept Goodman feeling full, which eliminated the snacking patterns that had sabotaged every previous attempt. "This didn't happen overnight," Shilstone told the New York Post. "It's been an ongoing process." And then there was the boxing. Goodman took up hitting the mitts and the heavy bag, a choice that surprised people who knew him. He told Rolling Stone in 2023, "I dug it. Yeah, nobody's going to get hurt, but it's just hitting the mitts and trying to learn. I never got good enough where I would trust myself to spar, because once I get whacked in the face, I don't know if I wouldn't lose it." His sessions typically lasted 60 to 90 minutes and combined mitt work, heavy bag training, and footwork drills. He also walked daily. In July 2026, Goodman appeared in an Instagram video posted by Simpsons in the Strand, a London restaurant owned by his friend Jeremy King. In the video, he made a comment that perfectly illustrated how deeply intertwined his old habits had been. "I don't barbecue anymore because I don't drink anymore," he said. "Barbecue is a good excuse to get drunk. Stand in front of something hot." Most people laughed at that line, but anyone who has watched someone they love battle addiction knows exactly what he was really saying. He was saying that even at 74, he still has to be strategic about which parts of his old life he allows back in, because the wrong trigger on the wrong day could unravel everything. The physical transformation was complete, but the emotional cost of the journey was about to reveal itself in a way that blindsided everyone, including Goodman himself. The fallout that broke his heart. In 2018, ABC brought Roseanne back for a revival season. The premiere pulled in more than 18 million viewers, making it one of the biggest television comebacks in years. Goodman was back as Dan Connor, sober, noticeably slimmer, and ready for what felt like a victory lap. The show was a hit. The audience still loved the Connor family. Everything was lining up perfectly. Then Roseanne Barr posted a tweet that compared Valerie Jarrett, a former senior advisor to President Barack Obama, to an ape. ABC canceled the show within hours. The network released a statement calling Barr's words abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values. Just like that, the revival was dead. Goodman was devastated in a way that most people did not fully appreciate at the time. He told the Sunday Times, "I was brokenhearted, but I thought, okay, it's just show business, I'm going to let it go. But I went through a period, about a month, where I was very depressed. I'm a depressive anyway, so any excuse that I can get to lower myself, I will." But that had a great deal to do with it, more than I wanted to admit. For a man who had only recently gotten sober and was still actively managing depression, that cancellation was not just a professional setback. It was a direct threat to the stability he had been carefully constructing for over a decade. Work and exercise were his lifelines. They kept him in forward motion. When the show disappeared overnight, the structure disappeared with it. He defended Barr publicly, telling reporters, I know, for a fact that she's not a racist." Barr responded on social media, "I thank John Goodman for speaking truth about me, despite facing certain peril from producers and network." She later admitted on camera that she cried when she read his words of support, but that loyalty did not last. In a 2025 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Goodman revealed that he and Barr had not spoken in roughly 7 or 8 years. "I'd rather doubt if she wants to talk to me," he said quietly. "You spend a decade on set with someone. You work together, fight together, defend each other publicly when the world turns against one of you. And then years pass without a single phone call. That kind of silence between two people who shared that much history carries a weight that most fans will never fully understand. But Goodman, who spent his childhood learning how to endure silence and absence, seemed to carry it the way he carries most things, quietly, without complaint. A BC launched The Connors, a spin-off without Barr. Dan Connor was rewritten as a widower grieving the death of his wife from an opioid overdose. The show ran for 7 seasons, and Goodman played that grief with a rawness that felt uncomfortably real. Critics and viewers alike noticed it. The pain Dan Connor carried on screen felt like it belonged to the man playing him, not just the character. And through all of it, the weight kept coming off. The boxing continued. The Mediterranean diet stayed in place. Goodman did not let the emotional fallout pull him back into old patterns. He had come too far and sacrificed too much to let a tweet destroy everything he had rebuilt. What came next proved that the transformation was not just physical and not just emotional. It was creative. At 74, John Goodman walked onto a film set and delivered the kind of performance that reminded the world exactly why they fell in love with him in the first place. The comeback nobody expected. In late 2024, John Goodman flew to London to begin shooting Digger, a satirical black comedy directed by Academy Award winner Alejandro González Iñárritu. The film stars Tom Cruise as Digger Rockwell, an ultra-wealthy oil tycoon whose reckless drilling operation causes a disaster that threatens the entire planet. Goodman plays the President of the United States, the man who tasks Cruise's character with cleaning up the mess he created. The film was shot over 6 months at Pinewood Studios on 35mm film by legendary cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki. About a month before production wrapped, Goodman slipped on set in his stocking feet and broke his hip.
The new movie with Tom Cruise. You fell, you hurt your hip. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was walking around on my stocking feet, which was stupid.
Tom Cruise's personal doctor happened to be present that day, and Goodman was operated on the following morning. He returned to work 2 days later. "It's probably the most different film I've ever done," Goodman told Today. "There's a lot of twists and turns, and that's why they won't let me talk about anything. I was over in London for 6 months shooting it. It had a wonderful cast, a wonderful time." Digger is scheduled for release on October 2nd, 2026, through Warner Brothers Pictures, and the early buzz around Goodman's performance is already building. The ensemble cast includes Riz Ahmed, Sandra Hüller, Jesse Plemons, Michael Stuhlbarg, and Emma Darcy. For Iñárritu, the film marks his first American feature since The Revenant in 2015. Goodman also starred in Chili Finger, a dark comedy that premiered at SXSW in March 2026. The film was co-directed by his son-in-law, Ed Venda, and features Judy Greer, Bryan Cranston, and Sean Astin in a story about a woman who discovers a severed human finger in her bowl of chili at a fast food restaurant. Goodman plays Blake Jr., the fast food chain's plutocratic founder. He joked about the casting on The Today Show. "I really had to fight for this role," he said with a grin. "My son-in-law is one of the co-directors. We shot it up in Champaign, Illinois, and it works. It's a good movie." That kind of humor tells you everything about where John Goodman is now. He is not bitter. He is not fading. He is working with some of the most respected directors in the world, cracking jokes about getting hired by his daughter's husband, and showing up to grocery stores looking like a completely different person. At 74, the man who once told a journalist he looked like a walking heart attack is now playing the President of the United States in a film by an Oscar-winning director. He has been sober for 19 years. He has maintained a nearly 200-pound weight loss through consistent exercise, Mediterranean eating, and daily boxing sessions. His marriage to Annabeth has lasted more than 36 years, which is practically unheard of in Hollywood. Their daughter, Molly Evangeline, followed him into the entertainment industry as a production designer, and he still boxes. He still walks every day. He still watches what he eats. He still avoids the triggers that could send him backwards. There is something deeply reassuring about that for anyone who has ever felt like their best years were behind them. Goodman did not reinvent himself at 30 or even 40. He was in his mid-50s before he got sober. He was pushing 60 before the weight loss became visible. He was in his 70s before the world truly noticed the transformation. That timeline matters because it destroys the myth that change has an expiration date. It proves that the body you are living in right now, regardless of your age, is not a fixed thing. It can be rebuilt. It can be reclaimed, but only if you are willing to look at the worst version of yourself with total honesty and then do the unglamorous, repetitive, daily work of becoming someone different. John Goodman did not get a surgery or take a miracle pill. He stopped drinking. He started boxing. He ate olive oil and vegetables. He walked. He showed up. He kept showing up. And 19 years later, a man in a grocery store did not recognize him. That is not a celebrity weight loss story. That is a survival story. And the man at the center of it is still fighting every single day to stay on the right side of it. What part of John Goodman's journey hit you the hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because stories like this deserve to be talked about.